Okay, I'm gonna have to do. I have tissue on my face. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to do my entire live over. This is my workspace for my. I don't know how to zoom in on this. That's why I say me and technology, like, I'm not. Technology is like. I have somebody here who plays on my devices all the time and shouldn't be watching me at all so they don't get triggered. And then when they get triggered, I go through shit like this. So, excuse my language. This is a phase that I'm in of my training. I'm in the patience training, and I don't always do too well with it at all because when God is preparing you for something, you are not yet the person that can handle what is coming. And that's what's been apparent to me throughout this process is that I am not the person that is ready for what God wants me to have. And I can admit that. Some people don't like to admit that. Like they can't admit that to themselves. Like when they are not the person who can handle what it is that they want. And I'll explain that. If you're easily triggered, you should not have any position of leadership, period, at all. Because you're going to make poor decisions. You're going to crash anything that you have. Because instead of thinking about growth and expansion, everything's going to come from your feelings. It's going to come from a place of how something made you feel and, how. And especially like for me, a lot of my triggers come from perfectionism. So it's something that I've had to let go. I want my video to go well. I want to have a smooth video, but I got to come back. I got to redo the video. I got to re record it. I'm not happy about it. And it's to say, it's not that you're not going to be happy about the things that are happening, but how are you going to handle it? So every phase of this, you're being trained for something. So I'm going to read the Bible verse again. But at the point that I stopped was at the point that I was talking about the training that was happening. And, you know, hopefully, if somebody's listening, they could listen and learn and get it under control. It's the self-mastery that really differentiates someone who's a leader from someone who doesn't qualify for something. Self-control, being able to like know when to stop. I've actually watched like a whole bunch of like recordings about this. Knowing when to stop is just as important as being able to endure and push through. Not taking situations that could easily have been managed and making them catastrophic, especially when you have people beneath you, especially when people are depending on you. Going down in flames and being known as that. And I've had to be put in situations all the time where I've had to make decisions because I have children, because other people are involved, make decisions to say, I got to do what is responsible, not what I feel like doing. So if you're going to listen, control yourself. Let me start again. So I'm going to read Luke 22, and this is advice for the disciples. So this is 71 verses. It's the cost of time. It's this is why certain people cannot be involved in certain things because they cost people a lot. Even in the situations where they're binded to, they cost a lot. Some things will make you see yourself, whether or not you have difficulty with seeing yourself, because you cost people a lot. Luke 22. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover. And the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might kill him, for they feared the people. Then entered Satan into Judas, surnamed Iscariot, being of the number of the 12. And he went his way and communed with the chief priests and captains, how he might betray him unto them. And they were glad and covenanted to give him money. And he promised and sought opportunity to betray him unto them in the absence of the multitude. Always hiding in the absence of the multitude. Then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed. And he sent Peter and John, saying, Go and prepare us the Passover, that we may eat. And they said unto him, Where wilt thou that we prepare? And he said unto them, Behold, when ye are entered into the city, there shall a man meet you, bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house where he entereth in. And ye shall say unto the good man of the house, The master saith unto thee, Where is the guest chamber where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? And he shall show you a large upper room furnished. There make ready. And they went and found as he had said unto them, and they made ready the Passover. And when the hour was come, he sat down, and the 12 apostles with him. And he said unto them, With desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I say unto you, I will not any more eat thereof until it be fulfilled in the kingdom of God. And he took the cup and gave thanks and said, Take this and divide it amongst yourselves. For I say unto you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God shall come. And he took bread and gave thanks and brake it and gave unto them, saying, This is the body which I give for you. This do in remembrance of me. Likewise also the cup after supper, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood, which is shed for you. And behold, the hand of him that betrayeth me is with me on the table. And truly the Son of Man goeth as it was determined, but woe unto that man by whom he is betrayed. And they began to inquire amongst themselves which of them it was that should do this thing. And there was also a strife amongst them, which of them should be accounted the greatest. And he said unto them, The kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and they that exercise authority upon them are called benefactors. The kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and they that exercise authority upon them are called benefactors. There are people who work and people who pay for work. The chief priests and the Pharisees may carry out the work, but it's the kings of the Gentiles that pay for the work. One's a horse, one's a cart. Sometimes the horses behave like their carts. But ye shall not be so, and he that is greatest amongst you, let him be as the younger, and he that is chief as he that does serve. Humility. For whether is greater, he that sitteth at meat, or he that serveth? Is not he that sitteth at meat? But I am amongst you as he that serveth. Ye are they which have continued with me in my temptations. And I appoint unto you a kingdom, as my Father have appointed unto me, that ye may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan have desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. And he said unto him, Lord, I am ready to go with thee both into prison and to death. And he said, I tell thee, Peter, the cock shall not crow this day before that thou shalt thrice deny that thou knowest me. And he said unto them, when I sent you without purse and scrip and shoes, lacked ye anything? And they said, nothing. I think I'm going to highlight that one too, because I kind of want to mention that too. That's 22 verse 35. Then said he unto them, but now he that hath a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip. And he that hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. For I say unto you that this that is written must yet be accomplished in me. And he was reckoned amongst the transgressors, for the things concerning me have an end. And they said, Lord, behold, here are 2 swords. And he said unto them, it is enough. And he came out and went. And as he went, and as he went, and I think want is just went, but in a different tense. So I'm going to say went. And as he went to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples also followed him. Sometimes I don't know if this Bible has typos or what, but anyway. And when he was at the place, he said unto them, pray that ye enter not into temptation. And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's cast, and kneeled down and prayed, saying, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. And then appeared an angel unto him from heaven, strengthening him. And being in an agony, he prayed even more earnestly, and his sweat was as it were great drops of blood falling down to the ground. And when he rose up from prayer and was come to his disciples, he found them sleeping for sorrow, and said unto them, why sleep ye? Rise and pray, lest ye enter into temptation. And while he yet spake, behold, a multitude, and he that was called Judas, one of the 12, went before them, and drew near unto Jesus to kiss him. And Jesus said unto him, Judas, betrayest thou the Son of Man with a kiss? When they which were about him saw what would follow, they said unto him, Lord, shall we smite with the sword? And one of them smote the servant of the high priest, and cut off his right ear. And Jesus answered and said, suffer ye thus far. And he touched his ear and healed him. Then Jesus said unto the chief priests and captains of the temple and the elders which were come to him, but ye come out as against a thief with swords and staves? When I was daily with you in the temple, ye stretched forth no hands against me, but this is your hour and the power of darkness. Then took they him and led him, and brought him into the high priest's house, and Peter followed afar off. And when they had kindled a fire in the midst of the hall, and were set down together, Peter sat down amongst them. And a certain maid beheld him as he sat by the fire, and earnestly looked upon him, and said, this man was also with him. And he denied him, saying, woman, I know him not. And after a little while, another saw him and said, thou art also of them. And Peter said, man, I am not. And about the space of 1 hour, after another confidently affirmed, saying, of a truth, this fellow was with him, for he is Galilean. And Peter said, Man, I know not what thou sayest. And immediately while he spake, the cock crew. And the Lord turned and looked upon Peter, and Peter remembered the word of the Lord, how he had said unto him, Before the cock crows, thou shalt deny me thrice. And Peter went out and wept bitterly. And the men that held Jesus mocked him and smote. And when they had blindfolded him, they struck him on the face and asked him, saying, Prophesy, who is it that smote thee? And many other things blasphemously spake they against him. And as soon as it was day, the elders of the people and the chief priests and the scribes came together and led him into their council, saying, Art thou the Christ? Tell us. And he said unto them, If I tell you, ye will not believe. And if I also ask you, ye will not answer me, nor let me go. Hereafter shall the Son of Man sit on the right hand of the power of God. Then said they all, Art thou then the Son of God? And he said unto them, Ye say that I am. And they said, What need we any further witness? For we ourselves have heard of his own mouth. So I have highlighted some verses from that passage that I'm going to have to come to in my message, that I'm going to have to reference in what I'm going to be talking about. So I'm going to start again. When I was going through, I'm going to call it gang stalking training for today's video, as opposed to gang stalking ascension, which is what I normally call it, because gang stalking is an ascension. Now, I just read in the Bible, and Jesus basically said, converted. He described where the disciples will be converted, not ascended, but converted. And he basically said where there's going to be 12 of them, and each one will rule over a tribe of Israel. So there's 12 disciples and 12 tribes of Israel. And I was talking about the fact that, like, I didn't do a lot of research about gang stalking when I originally went through it. When I first started, I started getting into tarot. Never believed in tarot before at all. Started getting into tarot. And at first I got into tarot and it was just entertaining. And then it turned into from entertaining to like very specific to my situation. So these were collective readings that were very specific to what I was going through. And my devices were hacked. So the people, and I'm talking about, like, at one point there was like 18 people hacked into my Instagram alone. So who knows how many there are now? We who knows how many? And I remember thinking to myself, how can this be happening to everybody at the same time? Now, there were people who were going through gang stalking, and they were going through gang stalking almost as like they were just suffering through it. So the way that they're describing their gang stalking experience is, it's like they're in a groundhog state. It's the same thing every single day. There's no forward movement. There's no evolution. There's no change. It's like every day they're just going through the same thing. However, listening to the tarot, it's seasons, it's cyclical, and it's changing, it's ever evolving. And I remember thinking to myself, how comes no one else can see this? Now, in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, I know somebody else must be able to like pick up on what's going on here. It cannot just be me. But I'm not saying anything because, well, for a multitude of reasons I'm not going to go into. And I realized back then, even if I already realized it back then, even if I had said something back then, it would not have made a difference, because some people don't care. The people in this situation, you're dealing with gang stalkers, they don't care. Now, I remember, it's like the message was that these people are never going to learn. And as I was listening, and I've been listening for 2 years to people being given advice to, like, please stop, don't do this, it's not going to end well. And I remember sitting there and just kind of like rolling my eyes the entire time, because I'm like, they're not going to stop. So I'm like, Spirit's wasting, everybody here is wasting their time saying, please stop. But then I got to the point, I started seeing. And I mean, early into my gang stalking journey, I started seeing what was happening to the people who were gang stalking me. And again, I'm thinking, somebody has to know what's going on. Turns out they didn't know what's going on. I'm talking about from the lowest of the low to the highest of the high. Everybody knew what was going on. Everybody knew that this was karma. Everybody knew. It didn't matter if they were in the dark room getting paid to gang stalk, like making the deal and getting the lump sum and divvying it up, or if they were on the street just, looking at someone menacingly. Everybody knew. They knew that this was karma, for sure. And as the cycle continues to evolve, it's like, as soon as I speak for myself, as soon as I came to the end of the cycle, and the cycles very specifically would close, very specifically they close. So if the cycle starts and it's with protection, learning protection work, I would go through insane attacks. And then I would learn the whatever the lesson was, I'd learn the protection work, and then the cycle would close, however it would close. If it's that they would stop, or if it's that Spirit would stop it, I don't even always know, because there have been so many cycles here. Over 2 years, there's been so many cycles. But the cycle always ends the same way, being buried in their own intentions. Always. So, giving an example, there was one period where I was burning sage almost 24 hours a day, all day long. Energy was being sent in all day long. And after that happened, I think children started getting sick, babies. I could tell, because they blamed me without thinking that they've been sending energy and spell work in 24 hours a day for weeks. So we know how energy works, hopefully, but I'll explain it again for anybody that's new that doesn't understand energy. Energy doesn't get extinguished. Like, this is sage burning here. It doesn't get extinguished. The energy has to leave. It gets cleaned out. When energy gets cleaned out, whether you know it or not, whether you set an intention on it or not, if the energy's on you, was sent to you, and you remove the energy has to go back where it was created. So when the energy returns, people like to say things like, I just give it to my ancestors and I let them decide. I don't send work back and whatever. This is for your ego, and this is for you to feel better about yourself as a person. Cleaning energy is a return to sender. Call it what it is. It is what it is. It's not your energy. Therefore, you are sending it back to where the energy returned, whether you think your ancestors are doing it or whether you're doing it. You're removing the energy from yourself. So that avalanche of energy, when it goes back, the energy hits where it hits. So it's almost like a whole bunch of energy comes into wherever. If you move to Switzerland and somebody returned your energy, and you were on the plane to Switzerland at the time you were returning, whoever's in the plane is going to get hit with you. If it doesn't hit you directly and there's someone spiritually weaker, more feeble next to you, it hits that person. This is why we always advise people, when people are under judgment, you stay away from them. You don't attach yourself to them energetically. If they have soul ties to you, meaning that you're in their astrological house, you get hit because the pipeline is clear. There's no blockage with a soul tie. It's like the clearest pipeline. So all the energy goes back. And whatever is in the home, it could be a pet, it could be a baby, it could be a fridge, it could be a dog, it could be a bowl. When energy comes back, dishes break, things break, whatever it is. And the energy that is sent, it goes back to where it came from. And I've explained this before, that when energy goes back to where it came from, the energy is not the same as where it was sent. It might not always hit the target where it was sent. Like, it might be sent somewhere and it might not always hit. It might hit something else. But when it comes back, it's not energy that anything will clean off, because it was created. There are spiritual rules and laws. A spiritual law is not like a man-made law where people make the law and people can change the law. A spiritual law is like a law of physics, where it is just how it works. So I would say something like gravity. It's like gravity, how gravity is just gravity. You don't have to believe in gravity. You don't have to like gravity. You don't have to follow gravity. Gravity is going to do what it's going to do regardless, because it is a physical law. It's like not a physical law, but let's say a metaphysical law, if you will, or a scientific law. Well, whatever. I'm not even, semantics right now. So I realized very early on, going through my journey, that there were a number of things happening coincidentally. First of all, people were building their own coffin. They were building the coffin. They were measuring it to their body. They were stepping in gel forms and setting it, because everything that was sent was not going to stay. Reason being is the process was being guided by spirit, very obviously guided by spirit, where it's like, you have to learn this right here. And there's a very specific focus on this. This is why all that work kept coming, and they kept reworking it and reworking it and reworking it and reworking it. So it's like same spell 2,500 times in a tight period of time. And so you'll see to yourself, you're like, wait a minute, but why are they sending so much death spells? And I remember there was at one point where it was almost like people were waiting to see, like, if I would wake up in the morning. And then you would watch the tarot readings, and that's what the tarot readings would say. It would say, I'm giving an example, that you're being sent death spells. This is what's happening, whatever the case is. And it was like, okay, so I got to figure it out. I got to figure out how to navigate it. So all this work is being sent out. And I'm thinking, my goodness, this shouldn't be reworked this much. And I'm thinking also to myself, and I continue to think that even up to today, how comes the same thing keeps happening over and over and over, even though people know how it's going to end? But it kept happening, and I moved along. I just learned whatever I had to learn from it, and then the cycle would close, and then it would move to something else. And as I was saying in the last live, to me, it felt like if there was some part of it that would stop, it's like it would start over again, almost like it would be triggered to be started over again. And I kept thinking to myself, like, there is no way that this is just a normal situation, because how can there be a whole collective of people going through the same thing at the same time? And now that I've come to a place where, and when I say now, I mean like in the last couple of months, I've come to a place where I'm reading over the experience of other people who've gone through gang stalking, and it hasn't been cyclical for them. They haven't gone through phases of learning. They haven't learned any lessons. It's just like Groundhog's Day, like they just keep suffering from it. And I recognized that the word collective is not just a bunch of people that are being gang stalked. It literally is a bunch of people that are having a very specific experience that is being guided by Spirit's hand. There comes a certain point where, early on again, where you realize that nothing's actually going to happen to you no matter what it looks like. So it starts feeling like a roller coaster ride. When you're on a roller coaster, it's scary because it's going upside down and spinning, is doing all of this, but you know you're locked in, you know you're fastened in, and you know that you're not going to fall out of it. Like, you're going to scream, you're going to panic, and then it's going to pull in, and then you're going to get off the ride. Reason being is the way probably people are sending the energy and the things that they're doing, it's not being experienced by you in the way that you can tell that they want you to experience it. So what I mean by that is all your interactions with these people on the street, the way that they mock you, the way that they ridicule you, the way that they behave like they're in a better situation than you're experiencing this thing and you are seeing it around you, but there's like a peace inside of you. There's a calm that is inside of you. It's like a bubble. And so you're experiencing things, you're learning things, you're growing through things, growing, not going, growing through things. And everything that happens makes you stronger. And that can be in any number of ways. And I remember I realized I was going through lessons and I started counting them. And I can't remember what number I came to now. Maybe 30, maybe 75. It was a pretty decent number. Like when I first started going through this, I thought like a couple lessons, and no, I cannot count how many lessons I've gone through at this point. If I were to guess, I would say in the hundreds for sure. At least minimum 100. I'm talking about real solid lessons, like solid lessons. I'm not talking about big things that people might think, but even, I always talk about hard skills and soft skills. Even things that may not seem big to people, but to me, I know that that realization or coming to that place inside of myself makes a difference. It's those small lessons that you learn that come together that change you as a person. And this happens rapidly. This is not like a drawn out process. It may seem, the gang stalking process may seem drawn out, but the lessons, the realizations, they happen fairly quickly. So I don't even remember. I want to say when I was cleaning off spell work day and night, maybe like, if I were to guess, maybe 3 to 6 weeks of that. Maybe not even as long as 6 weeks, maybe like 3 to 4 weeks of that. And there are other lessons, there are other things as well, because it comes to a point it doesn't work and it's like a waste of time to do it. I would think it's a waste of time to do it, but it keeps getting reworked. But you learn things by the way that things happen. So, for example, when I started smelling gas in my house, there came a day that the neighborhood across the street from us, the entire thing blew, like burned to the ground. To this, I'm talking about to the studs. I'm talking about there was nothing left. There's nothing left of that place. I've never seen anything like it. So you realize that multiple things are happening here. You're being trained, but you need it to happen. You need it to happen. This is one of my points here. You need this stuff to happen. All of it. You need the health spells. You need the beauty spells. You need the death spells. You need the car crashes. You need the womb magic. You need the spell work. All of it. I'm not saying you personally need it, like you yourself, but it needs to happen in order for you to learn how to handle these kind of attacks. But more so, the energy will be returned because it's not meant to stay. So it's a twofold situation. On one hand, all of it comes and you learn yourself about magic, different forms of magic very quickly. You learn what they are, but from a deeper sense than other people. Other people learn how to perform magic. You learn what it feels like. You learn how to clean it. You learn how to survive it. You learn it from the place of a victim, how it feels to endure it. So it's very easy to learn. People will judge you when they look at you. They're going to judge you on your journey because they will say that they have more technical knowledge on how things work. So one time a troll calls me a fake witch. I have never purported to be a witch ever in my life. Perhaps someone looked into my chart and saw something, and I've never ever called myself that. Um, actually, no, I called myself a baby witch early into it. And I was being sarcastic at the time. I wasn't even being serious. I was being sarcastic. But they will feel that they know more than you because they know how to perform things. Knowing how to perform things, you can literally teach 5-year-olds how to do magic. I think little kids would even be better at it because they have an imagination that is more robust, that they've put into practice more. So I feel like it's almost easier to teach children spell work than adults if you're going from like scratch. So enduring spell work and doing spell work, two different beasts. Two different beasts. Shooting a gun and taking a bullet are two different, and surviving taking a bullet are two different things. Those are not two people that are built the same. Anybody can fire the bullet, but taking bullets and surviving them is a different level. So you're going through learning how to survive spiritual warfare. The people that look down on you could not survive a week. I'm being generous, a week in your shoes, simply because right now they're under it. And the way they look, it's not how we look. They don't look too good because this is not easy. They've succumbed to these bullets. They've succumbed to these attacks that have gone back. So you're in a situation, or we are in a situation as a collective where we are collectively going through the same things collectively. That's why the collective readings all resonate with us as a group. And that's why when they talk about what people who antagonize us are going through, people who are antagonizing us are also suffering as a collective as well. This is being done not just in North America, I mean, all over the world. People are going through this stuff collectively. When I say that we are of service, everything of service is something of sacrifice. So you are literally sacrificing in order to learn the lessons that you have to learn here. This entire thing is about lessons for all involved. Everyone involved here is learning. People are learning what it feels like to be gang stalked. All of us together, all of us together. Whether you're a gang stalker or you're someone being gang stalked, it is important to note that whether you are someone who is actively gang stalking other people, devising to gang stalk, at the back manipulating, or you're the one out in the field and you feel like you're being hunted down, we all are learning what it's like to be gang stalked because everybody is experiencing the same thing. Let's say me, for example, today. So starting yesterday, this thing, it's like a cold that has been reworked out of being triggered. And I clean it off, it gets sent back. I clean it off, it gets sent back, etc., etc. It's going to go the same way that everything has always gone for the past 2 years, which is when it lands, there's going to be a point where it is so unbearable that somebody's going to have to decide, like, can I send another one? Because can I endure another one? It's never going to manifest into the way that it's a cycle. It's just a cycle of learning. So as we go on this cycle of learning, we're going to go through it and we're going to get out of it and we're going to move on and we're going to keep going and we're going to keep learning until we all together as a group graduate. It's literally my last point. My last point here says it ends when everyone's mess is cleared. Because as a group, we're learning as a group. As a group, everybody's under the same tutelage. This is all being managed by the universe. Everybody, a lot of people who are gang, okay, this is where I learned what that how this was working, or actually there I can't say this is where or like pinpoint one specific time, but um I even lost my train of thought now. Anyway, it's gonna come back to me. Personal sacrifice in this situation, something just came up for Diablo 4 and I want to get this game. I keep saying that. Personal sacrifice means that everybody here, divine or karmic, is making a personal sacrifice to something else. When I saw, and I saw it from the onset, that the tarot readers were going to get gang stalked, all of them, they were all going to be targeted as a group, and they were going to do what they know how to do best. And what they know how to do best is the same thing over and over and over again. And what is that? To spiritually bind people and then abuse them and take from them. Because that's the process, that's how it works. And you can't teach a new dog old tricks. So it doesn't matter if they have all the evidence that it was going to fail in front of them, they would still do it. I'm not going to pretend I understand that. I'm not going to pretend that I understand, because I don't understand how that could be, that we can have the first outline of how it's going to work and go now and multiply that. I still think that's crazy. It's hard not to express that because I just don't. At this point, no one needs readings anymore to like figure out that this is not good at all. So I knew that they were going to get binded, and I knew that they were going to be tortured. But I also knew that in them being gang stalked or tortured, it's how they were going to learn the same lessons that they needed to learn. And perhaps lessons, some of which I've already learned. So I noticed that though tarot readers were awakened enough to be able to give messages and channel spirit, they were not awakened enough to learn how to take bullets or how to protect themselves from taking bullets. It's not about taking the bullet and then cleaning it off. You go through that enough times and then you're like, hey, I don't want to be hit with any more of these. So it starts going from cleansing work to protective work and on and on and on, and it continues to evolve. So even though the tarot readers know that they are getting messages, some of them still think that they're getting messages from, actually, to be honest, let me not speak for them, but it's like the indication that I get is that they don't actually know what's going on. Like they don't, maybe they, not all of them know the energies that they're working with. They're not working with any energies. Actually, energies are with them, but they are not yet ascended properly or fully. So they don't fully understand everything. So I'm like, they have to be gang stalked. I literally in my head, I'm like, this is going to be for their benefit. And the only reason I can say that is because I'm deep enough in my gang stalking journey that I can say that it is necessary to be gang stalked if you're going to have, if you're going to be ascended. But you're not supposed to be gang stalked just to be gang stalked. You're not supposed to be gang stalked to suffer. You're supposed to be gang stalked to evolve. You're supposed to be gang stalked to ascend. You're supposed to be gang stalked to learn how to live or walk the spiritual path. When you go through this level of spiritual attack, because when you're going through gang stalking, you're not being gang stalked by one person. You're not being attacked by one witch. It's a full coven of witches, and it's more than one coven of witches. I don't care what anybody tells me. It's multiple practitioners, and it's seasoned practitioners. Some good work. Okay, some very heavy stuff. And I can say that because I felt it. I felt it. I went through it. So, like I said, it's personal sacrifice. Now, once you try to take one of these contracts, you try to take a divine contract. The divine lets you take the contract. And so now you are also of service. And the service also involves sacrifice and pain. So you're going through, whether it's karmic or divine, and whether you're karmic or divine, as a karmic, you're sending spell work, but you can't get out of it. In our situation, it's built in such a way where there is no way out. Very famous line. No way out. No way out of doing the spell work. No way out of doing the attacks. No way out of any of this. It must be done. These are not situations where anybody's gonna be able to get a refund or back out of what's happened. Once you take the deal, once you become of service, you are here stuck. And people have taken these deals over and over, and it's how it goes. You take the deal, and now this is what you're doing. You're in this process, you're in here. So you're binded to it. You can't go and get out of it. You can't say, I'm going to pay you double and a half and I can't do it. No, you got to do it. You got to be. So it's locked in. This is the service. The service is that They train us. That we go from completely unawakened and inexperienced, and they wake us up by training us, by sending all of this work, and then we learn. I use the example of like cleaning work and stuff like that, but it's way deeper than that. It's like a grooming. It's a the 360-degree attacks equal 360-degree training. So you are here not just to be of service, but you are also here to learn. Now, service is in all ways. This is literally the most genius thing I have ever seen put together in my entire life. This is literally, and I am not exaggerating, the most genius operation I have ever seen in my entire existence. I don't know if I'm going to live to see anything more expertly executed ever again. When people attack you, like I said, they're devising the way that they're going to end. Spirit doesn't have to do it. We don't have to do it. They're creating it. So when Spirit says that there's going to be no more growth in some of these groups, in some of these organizations, it's because of all the womb bindings and stuff that they've done. And all of the work, they know what work they've done. They know what things they've done. All of these things are not meant to stay. So as you go through your journey, you're here to learn. You're here to learn. So the first wave of people are awake enough just to give messages because that's all they're meant to do. They didn't go through the full experience. They're just meant to give messages so that the rest of us have enough information to now fully wake up. And once we have that information and we can go through it, we have enough knowledge that we can endure it, that we can survive it, and we get to a certain point. It's just like, and what verse would that say? There was a verse in here that was very specific to this. So it would be Luke 22, 31 and 32. It says, "And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan has desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. And I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren." They went through first, and they were strengthened. And then when they woke up, they were put in service to strengthen us. And then now that we have woken up or been converted, as it's put into the Bible, we also are now strengthening others as well. And so what they're trying to do is they try to stop the messages and block the messages. And that is not by accident. That is also by design. One of the things that I want to say is everything here is by design. So one of the first things that not the first thing, I knew it in the middle, but it's like it's settled into my spirit now. I knew that I had to meet all of these people that I was meeting all over the place. I had to meet them because by meeting them, by going through them, is how they meet God. And I just always felt like, because I knew God was with me every day, all the time. And I just knew that me seeing them, and they knew it because the readers said it, that they are nervous. I think one reader said it's not like they're nervous behind what's behind your eyes and whatever. And there was a certain time where people would wear masks and they wouldn't look at me, or they wouldn't want me to look at them or whatever. And it's like, spirit does not need to see you. Like, it's not me. Like, I don't, and it doesn't matter if you wear a mask. You showed up to do it. It doesn't even matter if you physically show up to gang stalk or not. It's just the fact that there are people going through karma that I don't even know who they are. I've never seen them. And it's just like anybody watching this as a TI, like, you don't know these people. You're never going to meet them. You're never going to see their face. You don't need to, because you're not the one sitting there doing spell work. These people definitely know. There was at one point I was like, do they really believe? But they definitely know you don't know how to do spell work. They know that there are and it's not just one energy, that there are energies here with us. There are energies. We are literally, this is the rapture. This is Revelations. This is a shift. When you read Revelations, it says the devil, or kingdom of darkness, however you want to call it, has 1,000-year contract. And when that contract is up, the power gets transferred. And they don't want to transfer the power. So they're fighting it. And they have to fight. And in, I think it, I don't even want to quote Revelations, what, 7, 9, 13, I can't remember. It says that the saints are weeping and they're like, how long are you going to let our blood shed before avenging us? And God says, we have to wait till the very last of us, the very last of you have suffered like you. And then I will avenge you. So that's why the last point I have here says, when everyone's mess is cleared. Why? Because in my heart, I want to say, like, we're going to be free and scotch clear at this certain time. And then, we're going to be, we can, but we can't. We're of service until the very last person is done suffering, until they find every single last person and make them suffer and make them pay. This can't be done. And the people that are here that are gang stalking, that are doing this, the gang stalkers on the streets and stuff like that, they don't know that there have been entities that have been grabbed. It's the entities that want us to not be here. And it's the entities that are fighting God. And God is not singular, God is plural. It's the entities that are fighting God that don't want that stronghold to be, they don't want the contracts to be given back. So when it says here that Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat, I'm telling you, this entity will show up by itself. I don't know if anybody has ever seen it, experienced it. It will show up by itself. You've been assigned a person that this entity goes through, but it doesn't matter if this person is available or not. It will jump vessels. It operates in that group and it jumps from person to person. But the entity takes cautions, it takes precautions. And I noticed that witches treat salt protection as if it's nothing. Entities respect protection and they will not cross over into it. Entities will not even come around if you're reading the Bible or praying. They won't. Entities will not even want to come into a space where they know there's angelic protection or there's spirits of light around you. It will send people in there. It'll provoke people to go, but it won't ride with the person. Then you will see entities. I'll give you an example. So there was a situation where there was an attack and these people came and it was 3 of them and they were attacking me. And the entity came, and after everybody had been almost like subdued, the entity was so obsessive, it came by itself after. And when the entity came and I looked at it, it ducked. It ducked. And this is exactly how the situation has gone, is that this entity uses other people to do things that it knows very well is a bad idea that it shouldn't do. So it won't do it itself. It will not. At my store, I had salt protection salt lines and it refused to cross it. So the person came inside and it hovered. We had glass at the very top of the ceiling where you could see through, and it's obsessive. And it hovered and it's like bouncing back and forth, and but it won't cross it, but it let the person cross it. And the person that crossed it, they themselves as an individual, I don't perceive them as a bad individual. I don't even perceive them as hateful, angry, any of that. But that person was carrying that energy. And sometimes you can carry that energy not necessarily because you just have behaviors that invite that energy into you. And this can happen to even good people. You can be a great person and you have behaviors that invite this darkness inside, and that's all it needs. So you're a great person, but you don't pray. You're a great person, but you have a little bit of an addiction or a weakness, and it monopolizes that. Or say you didn't even have that weakness, but it provokes it in you. They push you. You start going out more and drinking more and dressing a certain way and doing all of this. And then that entity can take a hold because it comes through the behavior. That's the door that it needs. And so when you are in these groups or around these groups, they want to go partying, they want to do drugs, they very what you would consider sexually liberated. We're open. It doesn't matter if you're married, doesn't matter if you're in a relationship. Every cross-pollinate is what they call it. It's like everything is open and free. Like you don't take this relationship thing too seriously. There's nothing to respect here. You can sleep with someone's wife. You can sleep with someone's girlfriend. And you can do it in front of the other person. It's like, it's open. This is why the Bible advises against a lot of things. This is why not just when you're going through this journey, but when you wake up, there are certain behaviors that nobody even tells you not to do. They no longer feel appropriate. So when I was going through my awakening, there are just certain clothes I just don't want to sell anymore. There are foods I don't want to eat anymore. And my awakening happened years and years and years ago. Like it started a long time ago. And it's like I went through certain things. Like I grew my hair naturally instead of straightening my hair. I stopped wearing makeup like I used to. I stopped dressing like I used to. A lot of things happened where I pulled back on certain things and I never could understand why. And I remember even like early in my 20s, I couldn't go partying anymore. I couldn't go clubbing anymore. And then I realized, it took me to get all the way over here. I realized a lot of these people are not necessarily bad people, but they open you up to behaviors, and the behavior creates a gateway. And then these energies come in, and then these energies manipulate you. Anything happening in reality on the 3D is happening in the 5D. And this is a fact. This is what's happening. If you're being attacked in the 3D, it's because you're being attacked in the 5D. If your life is coming undone in the 3D, it's because your life is coming undone in the 5D, in the spirit realm. Excuse me. If you cannot move in life down here, it is because you cannot move in the spirit. You're binded in the spirit, and this is why you cannot move here. If you have a demon on you in the spirit that has binded you, you can also make the correlation to what binds you in the physical sense down here. The purpose of my message is not to trigger anyone. It's to take the information being given and listen to it. I'm not here to make things up. The messages are not about making things up. It is what I know and it's what other people know. You have to come to terms with the truth, with the situations as they are, because you cannot seek to improve your life or your situation by just closing your eyes and digging your head in the dirt and pretending that things are not happening when they are happening in front of you. So anyway, let's continue. The person making all the comments, one day they make comments on kind comments and today they're attacking. It's the same accounts that do all of this. But this is the world that we're in. Anyway, let's continue. So what we are talking about here. Everything here is of service to God. So when people took on these contracts, it was by design. As soon as the contract was taken, meaning that, so I've explained this before, that you have the destiny swap. So they essentially try to take your destiny, which is to be of service to the Most High. I don't know if they know that that's what the contract is when they take it. Maybe they just think it's a destiny to have like a platform or be famous or have money or something. It must be attractive. It must be attractive for people to take on this contract. But when they take over the contract and they cloak in your energy, they become attractive to what chases you. And so the way it binds onto them, it locks them into position. And that's what that energy was designed to do to you. Let me reverse it again. Say you are Adam and you have a divine contract as Adam, and somebody destiny swaps you. They take on that contract and they appear in the spirit as Adam. When you look at them in the spirit, they look like Adam. You now are broken out of it and you have to transform into something else, into your higher self, into your north node. Your higher self is oftentimes a spirit as well. And I'm not saying you turn into the spirit, but it's almost like you merge with the spirit. So you go off on that journey and you're learning how to be something else that you are not today. And Adam, because you're no longer Adam, somebody else has taken that from you energetically, the person who took it may not have understood the other things that came with it. So with it came persecution. With it came being trapped in place energetically, spiritually, that you can't get out of it. With it came all kinds of unsavory things. And there are entities that are after you. These entities have been after you from the time you're a child, whether you know it or not. These entities have always been after you. Only when you get to your ascension and you look back, you start realizing, oh my goodness, there have been so many times that these energies have tried to get to me, but I always had protection and I never had to go through this before it was time for me to go through it. So then they take on this cloak and they become of service in the way, in the sense that they become your personal tutors, your teachers. And whatever it is that they don't know, they go out and they learn it in order to come back and teach you a lesson. In the course of me being gang stalked, listen, I had this moment of clarity that night. That night, I wasn't even supposed to go anywhere. I just went for a drive. And the way that I was, it's my head was like, just go for a drive. And I shouldn't have done it because I swear I was even low on gas. And I was like, maybe I should go home and get in my wallet and do this. And my spirit was like, no, 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 go. And the way that I was attacked that night, normally I would have protective stuff with me and I didn't. So I was really able to experience all the energies in a very raw sense. And there were three of them, plus the entity that was there. And when all three had been subdued and the entity came, it really hit me and it dawned on me, this is what was behind it. This is what is behind this entire thing. You have to go through all of your experiences in order for you to see exactly what's going on. You have to go through your gang stalking experience as a journey, as a series of lessons and not punishment. I was going to originally come here today and talk about all the things I wish I knew, or all the regrets that I had through my gang stalking journey. And one of them was I regret that I took it personally. I was personally taking it like a personal attack because I was receiving a personal attack. I was the one getting all the spell work. I was the one getting all the hatred. I was the one getting all of this behavior. And I just thought to myself, what have I done to anybody here? Like, how am I experiencing any of this? And it took all the way it took to come all this way for me to see this is energies that are fighting each other. And what they're fighting the energy on you. They're fighting your higher self. There's an energy in spirit fighting your higher self. And so it manifests on the 3D. There's an energy spiritually attacking people and they're perceiving that it's you doing it. But if you see people in the 5D, what they look like, if you see their condition in the 5D, you would see the entity that is on them. You would see the energy and how it is. And I've explained it before and I'll explain it again. When I saw the person that was attacking me in the 5D, they were in the cloak of someone else. And I know that it wasn't that person and they were crying. And inside of them was completely black, like it was dead. Inside, there was no light in there. It was completely black. It was void, their heart and their mind. And they were crying. It was perpetual tears. And their arms were binded. It was almost like being wrapped up like an octopus wrapping over a human being. So they were just like this. And their hands and their feet, it was growing out like intertwined branches. And if I tried to help, and I was trying to help at that time, if I tried to help, the hand would turn back into a branch because it was from the inside. The problem was from the inside. It wasn't an external problem. So it would just grow back. And you can imagine having hands that are like branches. You can't hold anything. You can't pick anything up. And it couldn't move. It was like this. It was tight. And then a little bit later, I met someone with the same tattoo on them as exactly what I had seen in that meditation. It was the same branch for the hands and the feet that was a tattoo. And I remember saying to that person, how comes you have that tattoo? Like, what does it mean? And they said they don't know. And they were like, a couple of their buddies made them get it when they were drinking. And I was like, oh, but it doesn't mean anything. They're like, no, it was just a couple of, they were just drinking one night. And they said that they wanted them to get flames like fire. And they were like, no, that's too much. So they didn't get the fire, but they got the tattoo. And then it made perfect sense to me, like what that meant. So that's a demonic symbol. That's a mark of the beast. That's what that is. That's the mark of whatever beast that is. They got that person to tattoo it, and that person doesn't even know that they're binded in the spirit by this thing, that they've been a sacrifice to this energy. They don't know that. What does this tattoo look like? It just looks like one of those sleeves, like, you know, when people just have a sleeve and it's just like a design. It doesn't look necessarily like something that you would think is a demonic symbol. Now, when you look at people with tattoos, you would think like a skeleton or the picture of a demon or something. You would say, oh, that's demonic. And you would look at something like that and you're like, oh, it's just a symbol. It's just a design. No, that was not just a symbol or a design. That's a mark of a beast. So people that are on the lower rungs of this don't understand that they are in service of something in the 5D, and that they were the sacrifice, that they've been sacrificed to something. And that's how people got what they got. That's how people got their wealth. That's how people got things. Everything that we're going through here is spiritual. It is always spiritual first. You must remember that you are a spirit first before you're not even the vessel. The vessel is just a vehicle to drive around in. The vessel is what you need to be here. The vessel itself is not you. When you pass away, you're going to fly off. When you meditate, you're a spirit. You're like a ghost. The same way. You don't have legs up there. You look like Casper in the same way. You're just a spirit. And the spirits that we deal with, the gods, they are also spirit. They're also a consciousness. We look at God almost like, I don't know how to explain how people look at God, but this is erroneous. God is a spirit just like you. Energies, these spirits that we pray to, whether light or dark, they have their own consciousness, their own mind, their own desire, their own goals, their own ambitions, their own agendas. In the spirit, they just don't have vessels. So that's why sometimes they utilize our vessels for their agendas. It's important to understand that their agendas. As you're being gang stalked in the physical, there is a process that's being enacted in the spiritual realm. Gang stalking is a spiritual thing. Gang stalking is not just people following you around. It is a spiritual thing. You're being persecuted as well in the spirit. So everyone here is of service in some way, shape, or form. Part of the service that gang stalkers us as a collective, part of the service that gang stalkers do you is that they take on your cloak to take your position spiritually to be sacrificed in favor of you. I'm going to say it again. After they take your cloak, you don't look the same way in the spirit as yourself, as your old self, how you used to be. They are you now. So when they take your personal possessions and your personal items and they bind to you and they wear it, all of this energetically, spiritually, the universe accepts it. The universe accepts it as you. They say, we know this used to be such and such, but they are now you. We accept them as you. And so the universe carries forth with all of the work as if it were you. I'll tell you why. Because the person who took on a cloak, all of a sudden I couldn't say their full name anymore. I would attach their name to the name of the cloak they took. It wasn't an accidental thing. It was how I would say their name all the time. I would combine their name to the name of the cloak. And that's when so when I started seeing them in the 3D in this way, I started realizing it, it all makes sense. You put it together, it all makes sense. So if you're being gang stalked, someone has taken you on there. They've taken on you as a cloak so that they can receive your blessings, right? If you were supposed to come into money, a business, a this and that, that's why they take your cloak so that they can experience the life that you were supposed to have. But what they don't take into consideration is that they're also going to experience the bad as well. It's a good plus a bad, because life is not all just good. So as they take on your cloak, they pay your karmic debt as well. Whatever things that you were supposed to pay for, they take that on as well. Whatever things that were chasing you, that were hunting you, start hunting them as well. Now, in the course of all of this happening, these people have also cursed your life. And so all of these things have been hitting you or are supposed to hit you. So it's kind of like they're going to have your clothes on the altar. They're going to have your hair. They're going to have your DNA and all of that on their altar, and they're going to pray against it because they are. How do you think you're getting all of this spell work that's coming to you and it's hitting so precisely? Because they have your genetic information, your DNA, your stuff that they put on the altar. And so that's why it's hitting like that. Plus, in order for it to hit better, they bind themselves to you. They take on a soul tie of someone who's very close to you, and that's what they cloak in, and then they bind themselves to you. That soul tie could be anyone. It could be a mother, it could be a child, it could be a family member, whoever. That's how they do it. It's a soul tie. So when they do this and they put your stuff on the altar, let's say there's a couple. There's Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve do spell work. And Adam binds onto the male in your life, and Eve binds onto the female. And they put your stuff on the altar. When the stuff comes, it doesn't come to you because you are no longer Eve. It comes to their partner. When the partner does the work to Adam, because the real Adam's DNA is on the altar, it doesn't come to the real Adam, it comes to her husband. Why? Because you send the work up into the universe, and the universe recognizes the two of them as Adam and Eve. This is part of the service that they have taken on. In them taking on your cloak, they have also energetically agreed to take on the suffering that you would have gone through. But this only happens if you ascend properly, if you take your journey, if you do your walk. You must keep moving forward. You must get into the North Node to escape this. What is the North Node? Your calling. You must do what you are called to do. You cannot stay in your old vessel. In fact, they pretty much beat you out of it. So you're not going to have a choice. And I see this. Some of us don't have a choice but to walk this journey. So as they send all of this your way, it's complicated. You got to follow along. You almost have to like listen to it a couple of times for it to make sense to you. It's a quagmire. It's a web, but it is factual. They've sent so much womb magic, and they think that nobody's going to produce children anymore, but it's them. It's them who ends up having that issue. They've sent so much money money spells, and it's them who have the money issues. They've sent and on the money issue thing, when your money stops, you get frustrated because you think these people have played with my money, but it's spirit that stops your money flow unless they take the binding away. If these people are still binded to you, your money cannot flow, or else they would get access to it. Spirit has to take the binding off. I hope it makes sense. This is the service that people do. It's so complex, but it makes sense. Only spirit could do something like this. This is not like beginner's work, okay? You think about spell work and you think about let me explain spell work. Spell work is an art form, and magic, I'm going to call it magic, not spell work. Magic is an art form. Like any art form, not everybody plays at the same level, and not anybody can do the same things. So people who are at a beginner level, people who just start learning magic, they do magic a certain way. People who have a certain character also do magic a certain way. But when you see geniuses do magic, you have to stand back and bow, because genius work with magic, genius work, the best magic is not magic you produce yourself. The best magic is magic other people produce for you. You guys don't understand. The most genius level stuff I've ever seen in my entire life is not magic that you produce yourself. It's magic that other people produce and you react to. It's magic that forces other people's hand to act. And when they act and they produce the energy, you keep your hands karmically clean and they defeat themselves. This is why, of all the consciousness, of all the conscious beings to fight, you don't fight gods yourself. You don't fight where you are outranked. Because wherever it is that you are outranked, these energies know how to utilize the magic that you produce, because they themselves are the magic. They are magic themselves. So they just let you do things. They let you create curses. They let you do things. They let you bind yourself to people. They let you do things. Because even if you might see it from the outside, it's deeper ramifications to everything. One of the main reasons why I've never been a person who's been too gung-ho about learning spell work, first of all, I'm going to admit, yes, I used to judge. Now I'm a little bit more open, but I used to judge because I'm like, there's always a cost to pay for it. There's always a ramification for creating energy. Always, 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 always. I always see it. There's always a ramification. I've never seen an example of people doing things to other people for free and nothing came of it. There was always something. That's why to me, I was like, it's not something that I really feel like I want to just, like, I love learning about it. I love understanding it. But like for me to sit there and create things myself, I don't know. In this situation, it's like other people have essentially devised their own downfall, while at the same time dealing with the karma, dealing with the ramifications of being someone else. You don't want to be other people because you don't know how gracefully they carry their cross. Being a kind person comes with persecution, and you just don't know how gracefully they're carrying it. Because you see them so happy all the time does not mean they don't trigger people, groups of people, by just walking into the room. They trigger people. And so as soon as people take on these divine contracts, they take on these divine cloaks, all of these energies get attracted to them to attack them. So that's just part of the service. That's on the karmic side. On our side, we are basically learning how to deal with a lot of things so that we can come back in service and we can talk to other people. Like it says right here in verse 32, It says, but I have prayed for thee that thy faith fail not. Because when other people come on here and they give you messages, these messages are strengthening you, your faith, and your resolve. Because when people see you and your faith, they say, if this person can do it, maybe I can try. If this person, they're not having a great time, but if they got through it, then maybe I can do it too. Maybe there's still hope here. And then it says, when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. And for me, whenever I've come on here, I've said to people things like, you don't have to succumb to this. You're going to get out of this. I've said all of these things because it's the truth. Not to oversimplify it, not to say that it's easy, not to say that you're not going to suffer as being a TI. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if you learn from it, if you learn lessons, if you see it as your Christ walk, just as Luke 22 talks about, Jesus said, do you know how many times I prayed that prayer? I was like, God, please, if I do not have to go through this, please, I don't want to go through this one. And then I do add at the end, if you need me to, I will, reluctantly, but I don't want to. You have to carry your cross. It's if you're a TI, you know what I'm talking about. Being a TI is a level of suffering that you can only understand by going through. You cannot explain this to people. You can only understand being gang stalked by suffering gang stalking. It is a unique level of suffering. It's a unique level of pain. So you go through your situation, you're getting gang stalked. And if you walk this properly, you realize that as you draw closer and closer to the end, that you're a better and better person than you started off. It's going to take you through hell because you have to go through hell first to ascend to heaven. You go to hell and you're judged by your actions. You're judged by your heart. Not even your actions. Let me say that again. Not even your actions. You're not judged necessarily. You're judged by your heart. They look at your heart. And based on what they come up with, that's where you get to graduate or stay where you are. If you cannot graduate, you don't leave hell. And you will notice that the people gang stalking you are living in hell on earth. It's horrible. It's horrible. When I was going through this at the worst time, I thought, oh, they shouldn't exist, etc., blah, blah, blah. Why are they alive? They shouldn't be here. And I've gotten to the point that every time I experience something that exists, I'm like, or something that they experience, I'm like, whoa, these people are suffering here. And it's almost, I hate to say it, but it's almost like a part of you almost can start feeling compassion in a way. And I can't explain this. It's almost like you can start feeling like what these people are going through, this is suffering. And they can't get out of it. This is the karma for it. The way other people have suffered. This is the karma for it. And you almost get to the point, I'll speak for myself. I got to the point where I'm like, I got to withdraw my hand. And all the forgiveness that God was like, forgive, forgive, forgive. It came to the point where it's like, you know what? I think I can get close to the forgiveness because not because they're suffering, but because I finally can see it from their side, or I can finally see what's going on that side. And it doesn't make what is happening easier to endure. It still will piss you off from time to time. You'll still lose your cool. But as you're sitting there and as your people are following you or people are trying to intimidate you, you're just thinking to yourself, you almost want to turn around and be like, don't do this. Like, this is, and there are people that don't want to do it. And this is a point that I wanted to bring up today. There, please, as you're being gang stalked, understand that there are people who don't want to do this at all. They're being pushed, they're being forced. They don't want to do this. And I can see it. There are people who wish they were anywhere else but this. And I can't tell you if that's because all of a sudden people see that there's karma, or I can't tell you if that's because they were forced to do it and they don't want to do it. But whatever the case is, there are people here that genuinely don't want to do it. And that's why you have to be weighed by your heart, not your actions. Because if you're judged by just your actions, you may be doing things that you're forced to do under duress. But if you are judged by your heart wasn't in it. Your heart didn't want to do it. You didn't have any choice. It's different. And that's why they say when you go through hell, your heart is weighed. It's your heart that's weighed. And there was another Bible verse I was reading and talked about your heart. It's really about your heart. So I'm going to say this. When you are looking at other people's channels and when you're seeing what they go through, judge not what they are going through, their reactions, their outbursts. Don't judge it, because there's going to be a day where after you go through your experience, you learn your lessons and you turn around and you teach other people, you're going to experience the same attacks that the people who are teaching you have to go through, because people do not want you to tell other people what's going on and how to get through this situation. People do not want you to educate other people. They don't want you to wake other people up. So they're an attack. When I used to see readers go through it and they were experiencing rage and they were triggered and all of this, I used to feel such compassion, but I didn't understand, not from the place of where I understand now. Everything that I have gone through, that I go through, now I understand what they were going through in order to give these messages. This was a sacrifice, a personal sacrifice. It's not just coming on here and sounding ridiculous to some people who don't yet understand. It's not just coming on here and having people talk poorly of you. It's not just having people laugh at you because they don't understand what's going on. It's not just that. I'm literally saying that you get spell work day and night for giving messages that you have to. People threaten your life. People don't want you literally alive because of the information that you're giving, because you're helping other people, and it's literally possibly taking away money, strongholds, contracts. People walk away from them because of the messages that you give. And you get persecuted for doing that. So it is a personal sacrifice that you have to personally sacrifice of yourself to turn around and help other people. And as a collective, that is what we do. We sacrifice for each other. We give personally to each other. I was going to say pray for each other and support each other, but we do that anyway by just coming on here and giving your message and telling your story. You're supporting other people. There have been people that I've prayed for because I've seen their suffering, I've seen their pain, and I've sat back and I've just been like, I've even said to God, like, come on, give them a break now. This is tough. This is grueling. This is getting unbearable. So, and I'll tell you, after the tarot readers got their first wave of gang stalking, they went through reading tarot and they were persecuted to do so. And now they got to go through a second phase of being gang stalked. And in my heart, I'm like, oh my God, I can only imagine how they feel. Don't lose your faith. Don't lose your hope. Don't lose your determination to keep moving forward, because it's not for punishment. I'll tell you, my faith is not my faith, but my patience is tested all the time as people go out of their way to just do things to block messages. And I used to be like, why are people fighting God and all this kind of stuff? And I recognize it's entities that are here. It's demons at play that are here. And it's just like the verse in the Bible says, don't lose your faith. Don't lose your hope. Don't be tempted into giving up on yourself, because we are almost there. We literally are almost there. There are people in here that are being persecuted. I literally watched on camera this girl's door get bulldozed open. This girl lost her children. This girl hasn't been online since. And if that's not the height of persecution, then I don't know what is. That is something that would make a person lose hope. But in the same way that those people gave me hope, I still come on here anyway, and I can only say, don't lose your hope in yourself. Continue on your situation. It will evolve. No matter how slowly it takes, no matter how much time it takes. I remember when I went through those messages, those people's messages gave me hope to go one more day. Like literally every day, I needed to listen to tarot to get some encouragement to just keep moving forward. And then I finally came to a place where I don't even need tarot anymore. I'm at peace with it. There was a point where I had no choice. I had to go to work every day. I had to do things. And so I was out all day and I was just meeting so many people all day, all the time. And I was going through the persecution and I was just being gang stalked. It was out of my control. And now it's like, I still have to go out. And sometimes it's ridiculous. Sometimes I have no reason to be outside. And I still meet people, and I just know that I got to continue going through it. I still go through persecution now. I still go through triggering behaviors, things that are meant to trigger me. But the only reason that they don't trigger me in the way that they used to is because I've gone through this walk. I've been triggered so bad. I've been triggered by people, not because what they were doing was triggering, but because I didn't like the person that much that it triggered me. And then as I came to my point of the journey where I kind of understand, it's the understanding that breeds the forgiveness a little bit more. Not to say I like this energy or that we would ever be it's nothing to do that. It's just understanding that it is deeper than just what it looks like on the surface, that it is deeper than just what it looks like when somebody is bullying you or pushing you or antagonizing you. It's a lot deeper than that. Their situation is deeper than what it looks like on the surface. It takes going through all of that to get to the point where you're like, I can bear a little bit more patience with the situation. I can take my time with it. I can walk through it. I can learn what I have to learn. Because let me tell you, you can't give people messages from a place of being triggered. Even today, like, look at the chat. Look at the kind of horrible things that are being said. If I go through this and I take this personally, or I fight this, or I'm upset and I lash out, it just takes away from the things that I'm supposed to be saying. So this is what I mean. You have to graduate all of these things that you are not yet equipped to do. I used to lose my temper all the time. I had to deal with rage. Rage was one of the harder lessons I had to learn, because it was like after being beat down so much and then going through like gaslighting comments and all, like it hasn't been easy. But once you learn how to deal with certain things, it's almost like that is your passcode. You learned the lesson and you can go. And sometimes it's like, and spirit keeps you in that dogfight. That is something that I've said. You're going to be kept in this until you learn. I remember one reader said, they were like, listen, the punishment for not learning your lessons is you get stuck here. So you have to continue to ascend. And I was like, oh my goodness, some of these lessons are too difficult to go through, but it's true. If I did not learn, not, Spirit kept saying, one of my other regrets, Spirit kept saying, you have to learn these lessons and stop pushing back against the process. Just relax and go through it. And I kept pushing back all the time, like, I don't want to be gang stalked. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want any spell work. I don't want this. I just want it to stop. And I kept begging for all of this to stop. I'm like, I'm so tired. I'm so tired of this. And as soon as I came to the point that I relaxed in the process, it's like I started seeing people as people and not gang stalkers necessarily. I started seeing situations differently. I started realizing I got to continue going through this. There's a purpose behind all of this. I don't have to force myself to for it to all be over. It's part of making me figure life out. I don't have to have a meltdown. And I'm so grateful that, my higher self, my spirit guides are so patient with me that no matter how many times they tell me the same thing over and over, I just get to the point where I'm just like, it's like I have to learn on my own. I have to suffer it out. Give me 1 second. I just have to unplug something here. Give me a bit. Sorry about that. So as I was saying, so another thing that I realized going through this is when I first started going through this, I remember listening to some messages when they talked about like what's happening on the spirit side. And I'm like, do people really believe this stuff? Especially in the beginning when I didn't quite know what was going on. I was wondering to myself, like, do people actually believe this stuff? And I realized how I must sound to people. First of all, when you're giving your messages, people are going to laugh at you. They're going to laugh at you because it's not real, not to them, not in their life. People are going to be like, what are you talking about? Who do you think you are, etc., etc. They're not going to want other people to hear this because actually when people hear this, it makes sense. It does make sense. Not just what people before me have said, but the things I've experienced and the things I've seen. And I've gone through this and I've learned the most lessons not by being told, but by experiencing it for myself, by me going through it for myself. Um, People will laugh at you when it's your time to give your messages, and you have to give your messages anyway. You can't sugarcoat it, you can't water it down. You just have to tell people what you know to be true. Um, People will attack you, they will try to trigger you, and this is going to be like a continuous thing. Um, Without you learning from your experiences, there are other people that will continue to suffer and continue to not ascend. So it's almost like you're being sent here not just as an inspiration, but to teach people how to do their walk, to teach people how to accept their path and how to ascend fully. Um, okay, we're done with this. This is not necessary at all. Okay, so people need you in the same way that I needed other people to give messages when I was going through it. I'm going to say when you get to that point and you start telling your story, I want you to know that people will laugh at you. They will laugh at what you're saying, they will attack you, they will trigger you. You're going to go through a lot. You're going to go through a lot with people. Um and I've said this almost every single video. You need to master how to deal with spell work, master yourself. Mastering yourself is more difficult, is the most difficult part of everything, because this is actually the ascension process, is the old part of you dying away and ascending into the new version of yourself. The old part of you is the part of you you almost have to, I don't want to say kill off, but in a sense, kill off. The old part of you is the person who would have cried instead of getting up and trying again. The old part of you is a person who, I can speak for myself, would never come on camera and talk to people like this. The old part of you is the one that didn't accept your spiritual side. It wouldn't accept the spiritual journey. Probably that's the part of you that was a little bit too realistic. That's the old side of you. You have to master yourself. You have to master the spell work. You have to get to know your spirit guides. You have to navigate the 5D, if you will, the spiritual side of things, not just looking at things in one way. This is a very robust path. It's a very difficult path. Um, there have been so many times I'm like, I did not agree to this. I need like a video of where somebody said to me that you agreed to this. I need to see myself on camera saying, yes, I want to do this. But the truth is, now that I'm here, it's like I wouldn't have had it any other way. Um, I'm very happy and proud to be able to turn around and give advice and help other people going through this. I've seen other people suffer through this. I've seen how difficult it is for myself. And that's how I know for a fact. I cannot even remotely believe the kind of suffering that I've gone through and the fact that I'm sitting here right now. I cannot believe, like, because I'm thinking about how it felt. I'm not talking about just hearing it. If you just heard the suffering, it'd make you panic. I'm talking about how it felt. So it is possible to go from that very desolate, scary place into a place of calm and peace and self-control in where I am now. Some of the changes just happen overnight for you. You just wake up and you're a different person. And some of them you have to work really hard and you have to earn it. You have to earn it, every piece of suffering by itself, with discipline. Um, and the last part of my message is probably not the last part, only because there are other things that I have to say here. Oh, so Luke chapter 22, verse 3. One of the things that it said, then entered Satan into Judas, surnamed Iscariot. Listen, it's always entities that enter people and then they start behaving like that. Always. I'm not saying that people have no accountability for making themselves available to these energies or for going along with things, or for even people even go look for these energies to carry these energies themselves. I'm not absolving people of any responsibility, but what I'm saying is behind it, there's entities. You're being persecuted and gang stalked, and behind it, there is entities here at play. There's a lot of demonic stuff happening, and to not acknowledge that would be to miss a huge part of this. Anywhere you go and anything you do for God, it's dark energies that are fighting God on what you're trying to do, on God's behalf. It's dark energies that are doing this. It's dark energies that are behaving this way. And it's manifesting itself through people that are like a portal where it can basically inhabit their vessel. That's how it works. It works that way on the light side and the dark side. For people that are being persecuted that do God's work, God manifests his and herself through these people in order to, how would I put it? In order to get the work done, in order to do things that need to be done, in order to give people messages, in order to, somebody says, there's this one reader that says, elevate the collective. And it's the truth. Whenever I would get these messages, not all of them, but a great number, a lot of them, it felt like God was speaking to me directly. And that's how it should feel, to be honest, that the encouragement is coming from God, that soft word, that compassion is coming from God directly. That's how it felt for me, was that God was encouraging me, even if it wasn't necessarily like they're speaking in God's voice, but it's like what they're saying and the way that they're saying it, it's like it's like I know God orchestrated for me to hear that, for that to come in that way. The last thing that I want to say, the last portion of my message, is I want to say that, God is not just father or not just mother, it's plural. And that they are extremely proud of us in the way that we're navigating this. I can look at myself, the amount of mistakes I made on my gang stalking journey have been numerous. So many mistakes, so many things I wish I didn't do that way. I wish I didn't say that. I wish I didn't snap. I wish I didn't whatever. But honestly, I think what is most awe-inspiring is how we continue to hold on under extenuating circumstances, things that would make other people break. Because, like I said, gang stalking is not easy, it is constant torture and abuse. So, gang stalking is no joke. And it's not for lack of trying that we are not getting through. It is because God is holding us in place to learn the lessons, and we advance a little at a time, because what you are going towards, you're not yet ready for. And I can see it every day more and more. I can see it. You need to be trained for this, or it would be irresponsible to let you go. I'm telling you, the kind of, even this chat, like, I would not have responded to in this way even like a week ago. It takes growth. It takes growth. Now, this is one person. Imagine groups of people speaking about you this way. Imagine groups of people talking about you like that. How insane that would be. But that's just what's going on. That's just how it is. A lot of patience is needed, and more patience is needed with your process, because we are a collective and we essentially ascend together. And so we have to learn our lessons together. Don't mistake your exhaustion for quitting an entire situation just because you are tired, you're upset at the situation, you can't take anymore, does not mean that you need to quit the situation. And that quitting a situation requires a plan, and you don't have one. You don't even have a plan right now as it is, and you're going through with spirit. And if it's this difficult with God, then what is it like without? And I see people that walk this without God, and I'm telling you, it is hopeless. It is a desolate situation without God by your side. You're here to continue to explore solutions, learn on the ground, not by yourself, but doing your part always. Co-creation is basically where the 3D meets the 5D. You on the ground and you in the spirit with your higher self, and your spirit on the ground with you in your vessel. And together, this is how we get things done, because everything that manifests here on earth must first manifest in heaven or in the heavens, in the spiritual. A lot of what we face, if not most of what we face, is because people are really attacking God and God's plan. And I've said it, I've seen and said it from the very beginning. People don't know that by attacking us, they're attacking God's plan, because all of this is what God wanted. So, this is my message for the day. This is quite a bit, it's quite a lot. Thank you guys for hanging in there with me, for the people that came in. And my goodness, it's a lot of messages. Anyways, thank you guys for hanging in there. I don't know if I should do a spirit messages card, because this has been a lot already. Um, Please like, share, subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel grow. And thank you guys for hanging in there. Have yourself a great day.